Before we get into today's video, I just want to thank all of our Patreons. Your contributions directly go back into helping the channel and funding the giveaways. If you're interested in some of these, check out the links down below. What's going on, guys? And welcome back to the channel. So, today we have Steel Song, and in my opinion, this is probably the best deck in the format. I know maybe it doesn't quite have the results overall that Ruby Amethyst does, but especially when we look into those big events, this deck is performing and nobody can say that it is not. Why does this deck work so good? Well, you have things like Cinderella and your Ariel who can sing higher cost songs, especially that Cinderella on turn one. Well, not on turn one, but you play her turn one, and then turn two being able to sing things like Strength of the Raging Fire, or more importantly, Let the Storm Rage On and set up that Strength 3 turn 3 or 4 is just very, very strong. In addition, your Ariel being able to search out your power cards like And Then Along Came Zeus or A Whole New World. It is just a very, very powerful deck. You have very strong cards in things like the Queen Commanding Presence and also your Cinderella Stout-Hearted, who when you play a song, she can challenge readied characters. We're going to go into the deck profile. I have updated matchups to go through, and then some replays. So heading on over to dreamborn.inc, we have our deck here. We see the overall cost is pretty pricey. It's $412. We are playing 13 uninkable cards, 12 1-drops, only 4 2-drops, and then a whole bunch of 3s. 4s drop down once again, and then our 5s hit up high, and we play some 6s and 7s, leaning a little heavy into the steel, which is pretty normal. So we're playing 4 Cinderella, 4 Queen, and 4 Robin Hood. Cinderella, again, she's your singer. We're playing Steel Song. It just kind of makes sense. Your Queen, you can shift on turn 2. And your Robin Hood, you can shift on turn 3. In addition, both of these shift cards are very, very powerful in their own right, and we'll talk about them in a second. Not everyone's on it, and actually less than half are on it, but I am playing 1 Cinderella Knight in Training just as a 2-drop play. Sometimes you don't want to just come back with that 1. Sometimes you could use it. Sometimes that draw to fix your hand comes up. Otherwise, you can simply ink her. You might not want to, say, get rid of your Ballroom Sensation to shift. So again, like I said, sometimes the Knight in Training does, in fact, come up. Playing 4 Ariel, pretty standard there. 4 Benja. He's more typically a 2 or 3 of, but I just really don't like item decks, especially like Steel Song Resist. Like, I want to get rid of that Fishbone as soon as possible, and Benja just allows you to do that. Playing 2 Rapunzel Gifted with Healing to heal our, say, Robin Hood or our Cinderella Stout-Hearted, and draw cards in the process. Her 5 Willpower and Questing for 2 also means once she's on board, she is a threat that your opponent has to worry about. Then we have our Queen Commanding Presence. Her +4, -4 matters quite a bit in this deck, because when you give your opponent -4 and then you give your Cinderella up to 9 or your Robin Hood 7, you're taking out pretty much any location in the game in one swing. And in addition to that, your Robin Hood can start taking out your opposing characters and gain you 2 lore for each one. Meanwhile, the -4 means he's taking no damage in the process. Likewise, when they get -4 and she already has resist 2, your Stout-Hearted is going to last a very, very long time. We saw that $400 price tag, and almost half of that comes in as your playset of your Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood. Well, I have a slight way to help you guys out with that. Our Patreon giveaway for next month, first Friday of May, we will do it. We're going to do it live this time. We're going to do a live giveaway, and it's going to be for Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood. So, again, Patreon link down below. Different tiers get you different things. In addition to that, it's not just for giveaways because, well, that's just not right. In addition to that, someone can comment. Well, not someone. Everyone who comments on this video, 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know yet. A few random commenters from this video will also get entered into that, but the only way to guarantee your entry into the giveaway, again, is through that Patreon link down below, but technically, everyone has a shot. 2 Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, and then 3 Cinderella Stout-Hearted rounding out our characters. I am playing 3 Smash. Not only does this help in the mirror match, which is probably one of the least fun matchups we have. Smash just, you hit the aerial before they can sing songs. It is very impactful. Taking out the opposing queen, also very impactful. Robin Hood, because then your Robin Hood can crash and take theirs out in one swing. Smash puts in work, and in addition to that, it outs things like not Elsa, the Ursula in the Emerald strategies. Going on, we play 21 songs, 3 bare necessities, just 1 world's greatest criminal mind. Your queen commanding presence really makes this card just live versus just about everything, because her +4 means as long as they have 1, well, +4, now they have 5, and you can take out their characters. Playing then 4 of our 3 drops, which isn't surprising. Let the Storm Rage on and Strength of the Raging Fire. 3 Along Came Zeus, 4 Whole New Worlds, and 2 Grab Your Swords. I actually ended up cutting out the flute and didn't want to put in, say, the lantern. I wanted to keep my uninkables a little bit lower. The 2-drop plays, I mean, you can sing songs, you can play a bare necessities outright at that point. You can come back with Cinderella, come back with one of your other 1-drops. So I know flute helps, and especially in like grindy games, once Be Prepared starts dropping on you, it allows you to grind it out and to win without the character presence as much. But I think right now items aren't quite as strong because everyone's preparing for them too. So I just opted to go without that flute. Matchups then. Ruby Amethyst. So this is obviously not necessarily anyone's particular list. It's just a list of a lot of common cards that are being played, and it happens to be 60 cards. So if you're wondering where I get all my information for tops for all this type of stuff, link down below to the spreadsheet that I try to keep up with weekly. It covers tops. It covers deck cores for decks that are winning events. Once you get like 5-6 decks or of a specific deck winning events, I tracking all the cards that they play in at which ratios, things like that. Also a separate tab for every event with 100 or more players too, with everybody's deck list linked to it, information, deck name, all that good stuff. So go ahead and check that out down below. Also, if you want to support the channel, obviously we mentioned the Patreon. Otherwise, all access card shop for all of your TCG needs. This is the locals that I go to, and they're some of the best people I've ever worked with as far as buying cards, purchasing cards, online, in person, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, model kits, anything TCG related, anything hobby related. Well, maybe not anything hobby related, but they have quite the assortment of things. Pokemon as well, so go check them out. Links for all that also down below. But anyway, so against Ruby Amethyst, we're not going through their decks. I just want to talk about certain cards that you should be at least paying attention to. First and foremost, that Rafiki, the 1-drop, he's a challenger +3. So just keep an eye on that, because obviously if you sing a song with, say, your Cinderella or your Ariel, he can come through and clean sweep and take them out. Otherwise, their 1s and 2s are pretty straightforward with it. It's nothing really that you worry about. A couple draw cards, a couple defense. But otherwise, the Pinocchio, the talkative puppet, being able to play this to, say, exert your Ariel, and then they can do some, like, if they go turn 1, any of their 1-drops. Turn 2, Snake. Turn 3, they play Pinocchio, exert your Ariel. Now Snake can take out your Ariel before you can sing a song. So do keep an eye out for that. It's an option they have to out you before you can really take advantage of it. Obviously, Mimfox has Rush. That's not anything crazy that we're necessarily worried about. Merlin Crab, that's one where you're stout-hearted and that resist might start to not matter as much, because, say, Mim Fox with 4 +3 would put her to 7, which means even minus that 2, she's still going to take out your stout-hearted. So Fox Bounce Crab does out Cinderella stout-hearted. Keep that in the back of your mind, as does, say, Goat plus Merlin Crab. Maui coming down with 6. Maui and Crab, another way to out it. His Rush, that's 6. He is such a just absolute beast. Lady Tremaine and Medusa's a little more popular. Medusa being able to take out your Robin Hood. Definitely hurts because his 3 attacks. So when she comes down, they can just banish your Robin Hood. So Medusa is definitely a card you really need to look out for. I've been seeing a lot of them also playing the 1 Dragonfire. So that's just another card where they can out your boss monsters. Teeth and Ambition, it's about 70% played in the winning deck list. That's something that can take out your Ballroom Sensation pretty early. Other than that, it's really not too worrisome. Be prepared. You just gotta be ready. You know, it's coming. You gotta try to play around it the best you can. Don't spill your whole hand out. Like once you start getting in that be prepared range, don't just play every character in your hand because you can. You know, play a little smart at that point. Spellbook, you know, spellbook. It's kind of like your flute if you're playing it. Some are still on castle. Maui's Fishhook. This card, whether they want to protect their cards and give them evasive till next turn, or that +3, this card is definitely one to look out for. So the cards you really want to look out for are the 2-drop Pinocchio, the Fox Crab combination, Medusa, and that Maui's Fishhook. Is this matchup favorable? I do think it is. I personally like the matchup with Steel Song. However, that doesn't mean you're always going to win it because obviously this deck shows out. The mirror match. Okay, mirror match. What do you do in the mirror match? I'll be honest, I'm not super fluent in this mirror. Thankfully, unfortunately, however we want to look at that. This list, opposed to mine, is more of a standard list. So whether you're watching this video and you like my list, go ahead, play it, try it. Otherwise, if you like this more, play this list. This list is pretty standard. It's actually not too far off of mine. However, like I said, a little different, playing flutes and the tragic beasts. Mirror match. Whoever goes first is at a huge advantage here, just because you get to set the tempo of it and the deck. If you're in a local, I guess, like going card for card, it's hard to really say because it's such a chess match. If you know your local scene or where you're going to play has a lot of Steel Song, honestly, play Smash. That card is very, very strong in the mirror match. Like I said, it handles things like Queen, it handles things like Cinderella, it handles Ariel. You can put damage on Beast, and then they're not going to get the extra draw. You can also, like I said, put that 3 on Robin Hood, and now all of a sudden he's basically a 3/3 at that point, which is much more manageable to deal with. So I guess that's my best advice for the mirror match. Try to play Smash if you can. If you know you're going in for mirrors, I would definitely play Smash. You have to hard cast it. It's not a song. I get it. But that's just my, I guess, advice for the mirror. Tempo bounce. Okay, so things here, they're obviously going to come out really early with things like Merfolk and with Flynn. I've been seeing more start to play things like Pua, Enchantress, Maleficent biding her time and get a little more aggressive, which personally I agree with. But I think that aggro-ish decks in general kind of struggle versus Steel Song. This being more of a mid-range aggro deck struggles less, I'd say. However, they're kind of power plays with things like the 3-drop Ursula, with the kit, with these types of cards, and the bounce factor I think are less impactful because like your aerials and grab your swords is going to be a huge power play against the aggro versions. Obviously Ursula Deceiver, being able to see your hand and get rid of those songs is going to be hurtful, and I play this deck pretty often, and I usually try to mulligan. I can have 2 Ursulas in my hand, I'll hold on to both of them, and I'm okay if I hit a third, because if I can steal all your songs away, I'm okay with that. Yeah, so what else? If you're playing flute, just keep an eye. They are starting to play Wildcat, so they can exert him to take out your flute. Mother Knows Best. Genie's starting to see less play. Yzma's being a little more common. Even the Tinkerbell Most Helpful starting to see a little less play as well. They also play Talkative Puppet to exert your cards. I have actually a pretty spicy list that I'm working on. I won a case tournament, got a couple boxes of first chapter, and then I'm actually going to be playing that same list, though, for my Stitch Championships, so I am not going to drop it just yet, but I actually really, really liked it, and luckily, not too many other people are playing those secret tech cards that we have. It's all about, finding that advantage. Moving on to red blue. I do think the bounce matchups, I'd say slightly favoring Steel Song. I think Ruby Amethyst and Bounce are both in Steel Song's favor. Obviously, the mirror match, Steel Song's going to win it, but it's hard to really say whose favor it is. It favors who goes first and who has that tech card, and if you see it. Red blue. So, this, personally, I haven't had issues with this with Steel Song. I think that's more favorable than the other two decks, even possibly. I know I've seen people say it's not a great matchup, though, at the same time, too. So, I guess, oh man, because this deck can just come out of nowhere with like the Tamatoa, the Lucky Dime, if they're playing Bell or not. Like, they can really get lore fast in the grind game. So things like Your Along Came Zeus are going to be super important. Things like playing a song so that you can challenge readied characters with Stout Hearted are going to be very important here. Getting out to an early start is going to be very important. Like, if you can shift Queen turn 2, and if you can have like Queen and Robin Hood out by like turn 4, you might be in an okay spot, because them are two powerhouse cards that you can really deal with your opponent. Plus, at that point, the +4, -4 to get that Hiram off board a lot faster to kind of cut off their draw engine. But they are on Maui. They are on the Medusa, which we already talked about being a bad card for us. Just being able to out so many cards. Hades being another card that they can out your Stout-Hearted. The Maleficent Dragon, another one. So they're playing 6 copies of cards that just out your card. In addition to that, the Be Prepared, so just out your entire board. It's... man. Maybe I shouldn't say it's more favorable than those others. I do think it's favorable, but I guess let's say Bounce is like a 65-35, 60-40, 60-40 maybe. This is like a 55-45. Ruby Amethyst is still right there, right with Bounce, though, I would say, as far as favorability goes. Then let's go ahead into the next steel one. Sapphire Steel Resist. This one is not a favorable matchup. It's one that they actually counter Steel Song pretty decently. So where do we stand here? This one's tricky because, again, they have the Hades, they have Let It Go, they have Along Came Zeus. They have these power cards to deal with your board as it develops. They, again, have that Bell who can come in and get lore very, very quickly. They have the Hiram engine for draw. Gaston to be able to dig for cards in their deck. Tragic Hero, Robin Hood. Like, this deck can play so many different things. Robin Hood's actually not super popular in here, but I think that's because this particular list is like a $700 deck, and that's just pretty expensive. But yeah, this matchup's probably not a favorable one. However, kind of like red blue, you want to get out early and really set the pace and make them start responding to you and try to get them off their game plan. Benja also very, very important here. Like, Benja, take out that Fishbone. Benja, take out the Popsicle. Get those items off board to cut off that Hiram draw engine. It's going to be very, very strong, and if you can do that, you'll be in a pretty decent spot. Lastly, for our matchups, we have Green Steel Discard. I think these are the top 6 decks, and that's why we're going to talk about them when we go through our deck profiles. So basically, like other green decks, they set the pace and the tempo with Merfolk and Flynn early on. They have Ursula, who can rip the songs out of your hand. They have the other Ursula, who can double sync things like Sudden Chill, and all of a sudden you're discarding 2 cards. In addition, she can double up Raging Fire or Storm Rage on to deal extra damage and possibly draw multiple cards. I think this matchup isn't necessarily unfavorable, though. I like the matchup. It's probably maybe a little less than the Bounce matchup as far as favorability. High 50s, low 60s, in that range. It's worse than red blue, but I think it's better than the Bounce one. Yeah, I'd be pretty comfortable saying that. Just they try to come out early with that tempo, and just those early aggro strategy type decks we do deal with really well because things like Merfolk and Flynn, where normally you're discarding for them to challenge them, we just take them out with our songs, so you don't have to actually lose any advantage in the process. Let's go ahead and jump into a couple of replays then. The first one is going to be against Red Blue, and we are going second. So our opening hand of Rapunzel, Whole New World, Cinderella, Cinderella, Tink, Robin Hood, and Grab Your Swords. In this one, I was like, I don't necessarily want Stout Hearted because by the time she comes up, our opponent is well into his strategy. We want to try to get out early. So I had to get rid of the uninkable cards and the higher cost cards. Keep our little Robin Hood in case we hit the big one, which we do. And then also keep the Cinderella to potentially sing a song, which unfortunately we did not hit one of our 3 cost songs. Opponent coming out with Develop Your Brain. It's pretty much that or Popsicle as a turn 1 play. We hit another Robin Hood, so we can get rid of that. Put down our Cinderella in case we draw into that 3-drop song, because Robin Hood can't be shifted turn 2 anyway. So now he could say, as I say, Queen of Hearts is a typical turn 2 play with the Rush, but since he can't challenge us because he went first, he opts to go for the 1 jump ahead. We get to see his hands, so Hades, Tala, Fishbone, Fishbone, how far I'll go. Unfortunate that he has multiple Fishbone, but now we know his hand. So we can go ahead. We're going to, I was like, man, he's got the other Fishbone. So this is such a hard decision because I lose my shift, I lose my dig for spell or for songs, or I lose my out to the Fishbone. And I was just like, man, this decision stinks. I got 2 uninkable cards here, and I would love to just be able to ink one of them because I like my other 3 cards. So we see Fishbone. It uses it. We draw a queen. We're going to get rid of that. We can go ahead and play the Benja now. So we know he still has Hades in hand. That's the only unknown, or there's one unknown, and then again, Hades in hand. We see a card get drawn. Hades also being uninkable means it's going to stick there for a little bit, but unfortunately, it's going to stick there. So keep that in mind. At this point, we're going to come out with our aerial, see what we can't get to. If we had our big queen, the World's Greatest Criminal would come out very strong. Luckily, we have Strength of the Raging Fire and Along Came Zeus, so we're not in necessarily a bad position yet. Grandma Tala, whether he quests or crashes it to go to his Inkwell so he can do a Hades play, that's obviously on the table for him. Would have to ink a card, lose Tala, play it, would leave him with just 1 in hand. So I mean, here it's more trying to get as much advantage as I can before a Be Prepared. How far I'll go, I actually forgot he had that card in hand. He must have been inking unknown cards, unknown at the time. So he still has the Hades now. We did happen to see that how far I'll go, so we did actually know that one. So Hades is still in his hand. Up to 7 ink. We got our Rapunzel. So now it's like we're in Be Prepared range. 2 cards in hand. He could be prepared, come back with Hades. So do you just hold on to cards in your hand and wait for it and just quest a whole bunch? Or do we go ahead and get that draw? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that play yet. We hit a smash, so we get rid of the Raging Fire because just kind of feeling like Be Prepared is going to come down. But it came down to put them on. If you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. At this point, too, we're going to be questing for 7 more to put us at 18. And the Hiram comes down. I'm so happy when I see Hiram come down because, well, Hades is still in his hand. He's basically trying to get a Be Prepared. But at this point, even if he did hit Be Prepared, I'm not too worried about it because we can go to 18 and just kind of coast at that point. So we shift on, and now we can go to 19. So we're not quite there yet, but it's going to be really, really close. not having the ink to be able to say play smash and the Zeus to get rid of the hero before you can draw an extra card. Was just really debating here, like what I want to do. Singing that, I don't necessarily think it was great because I mean he had the popsicle still where he can heal 2 from it, but obviously he's going to quest to still pop that to draw. So now anything can take it out. But if Be Prepared comes down, we're only 2 away, right? So that's kind of the idea. But he does not have the Be Prepared. So we're against Amethyst Steel this time. It is a control one, just to spoil that. We get to go first. So we aren't too worried about items. We can get rid of the Benja. We have our Cinderella for turn 1. We have our 3-cost Song for turn 2. If we can hit another card to deal 2 damage, because obviously that one's kind of based on your board state. In that regard, could have kept Cinderella, but I'm really going for the small Robin Hood. It was between Robin Hood and Queen. Which one do you try to get? And usually you'd hit Little Queen in this instance. We hit Benja, Strength, Storm, and Tinkerbell. So Storm actually feels really good to hit it in that scenario. So we ink our Tink, play our Cinderella, and then pass turn to our opponent. We see Robin Hood go ahead and get inked, and then another one comes down. We draw into our Whole New World, which is uninkable, and then also our Bare Necessities. So now we can get rid of 1 strength, see our opponent's hand. So Friends, Mountain, Mim, Tink, Maleficent, and the Along Came Zeus. I don't think his hand's that good, so I want to get rid of his draw card. Now, he's going to ink, and the only 2-cost card he has is Forbidden Mountain, so that's kind of the route he has to go. He still has the Maleficent, Zeus, and the Mim in hand. We come down with the Benja, debating if I wanted to challenge the Mountain or not, and I was like, it's not going to speed up the turn that I destroy it on anyway, so we opted to quest instead. Tinkerbell gets inked, and then Merlin Crab comes down. So again, it's Maleficent, Mim, and Zeus in hand. We draw another Whole New World, which is very unfortunate. Our draw is really not helping us out too much here. Trying to just think what I can do, and I'm like, if he uses the Mim to bounce the Crab, he's just going to be able to take out anything. So, and if I quest, he can challenge with Crab, bounce with Mim, take out my other card. So I just felt better to not do anything and make him answer my board. Inking the Mim there, that means he has another Mim in hand. He drew it. He wouldn't ink his only Mim. I'm smarter than that. I'm not going to fall for it that easily. So we get our Stout-Hearted, which is really big. We can take out the Crab to prevent that plus, how we kind of mentioned the Fox plus Crab outing a Stout-Hearted. So we can get rid of the Crab there quick and easily. And I want to go ahead. He used his Crab on my Benja, which I don't think he thought of that because I was going to quest. But since he's dealing 3 extra damage, we might as well put that 5 onto the castle. So he does come down then with the Fox, takes out the Benja for 2. Waiting to see what else our opponent does. Stout-Hearted is just such a strong card too, so I'm okay where I'm at, I feel. We draw into a Tinkerbell. Unfortunately, can't really use her, so we're going to ink the Tink, and then we're going to go ahead and sing our Whole New World. We don't want to hard cast it because you kind of just lose your tempo then, because what are you going to do, right? Like you have no ink left to do anything. So we sing it instead, so that way we can actually play our hand out. We hit a smash, we get rid of the Fox, then we see our Ariel. We can go ahead and play her. If he challenges us with the hook, we'll take 1 damage because the resist 2. That was a risk I was okay with because he would lose his card in the process. We still have multiple Cinderellas, Queen, our Criminal, and another smash in hand. So I'm feeling pretty good with where we're currently at. Tinkerbell comes down, doesn't deal anything to Cinderella, and puts 1 on the Ariel. So he's going to pass turn. I'm actually really okay with that. Just trying to think this through, though, how we want to play it the best or most efficient way. So you play World's Greatest. he doesn't have a target for the world's greatest. But I'm like, well, I got my 2-drop Cinderella. We can play her, draw a card. It happens to be a song that we can use, so that's just crazy. We can go ahead, put Smash on the Tinkerbell, sing with Let the Storm Rage On, get rid of the Tinkerbell, draw a card, and now our Cinderella can challenge a readied character because of Resist, again taking no damage, put our Queen down as our shift target, and at this point I felt very confident in the matchup that everything just swung in our favor. Sure, our opponent has a big hand, but we have the board presence. That was kind of the one card I'm like, okay, Grab Your Swords puts in a lot of work here, but he has to hard cast it, which doesn't really leave him with a whole lot. And I still have 2 more very powerful cards in my hand. And on the off chance he has a strong card of his own, well, I have World's Greatest Criminal Mind. So, sitting here debating, I'm like, to challenge it, I'll take 1 from the Smee, or is there a different way we can go about it? We ink the Criminal Mind just because with Grab Your Swords, Robin Hood, and Queen, I felt pretty safe. And again here, if he's going to challenge me with the Smee to do 1 damage and lose himself, I was okay with that risk. Our opponent instead comes out with Let the Storm Rage On, which allows him to draw that card, puts the 2 on Robin Hood, but that don't do a whole lot. Maleficent also comes to draw a card, and this tells me he really doesn't have much for play lines, and instead he's trying to draw into something that will save him. So again, I'm feeling better about where we're at in this exact moment. Grab Your Swords here can put in a lot of work. We can take out his other locations. We happen to hit Strength of the Raging Fire, which that's also just going to help incredibly. So we're sitting in a pretty good spot at this point. Grab Your Swords is going to deal with his board completely. And then we can go ahead, take out 1 of the castles, and then quest for 3 to make it a 10-7 game. Debating if I wanted to ink that, and I was like, I might as well. Not really a whole lot of scenarios that I felt I wouldn't need to do it in this particular matchup. Other matchups, maybe I would have kept it. The GOAT comes down, which would be scarier, I guess, if we were in a more simple game state, but or not in such a simple game state, I guess, because we can sing that, and now our Cinderella can go ahead and take out that quest with our Robin Hood. So 13-9, Castle goes to 14. His 4 in hand, we have 3 very strong cards on board. Another GOAT comes down. So now I'm actually like, okay, this could get a little tricky. And he also comes down with Mr. Smee. We happen to hit Along Came Zeus, which once again is going to be very, very strong. So now keep in mind here, he's got 4 more on board, but with the GOAT threatening. So that's just very, very good. If he has another GOAT in hand, I would lose. That's why we can't just say quest to 14, quest to 16, because we would just outright lose to our opponent playing a GOAT. And in addition, he could say GOAT crash, Smee crash, probably still win in that case. However, his castle put him to 16, puts another character on board. It'd be really close. It's hard to say. But we happen to hit our Zeus, so we're going to go ahead Queen +4, -4 to get our Robin Hood. I did slightly misplay here, however. We should have gave the +4 to Cinderella to take out the castle. Or no, because Cinderella was going to take out Smee. What was the play? So, okay, that's where we're at. Right. I'm like, I literally just played these. Why can't I remember? So what I should have done, because I know what I did, I should have boosted the Cinderella, took out the castle. The 3 would have been plenty from Robin Hood to... Or no, Robin Hood can't challenge the ready character. So I did play it right. I did not misplay. Because I'm like, oh, if I would have challenged with Robin Hood, I would have gained the 2 lore, went to 13, and then I'd be threatening lethal on my next turn. But Robin Hood cannot challenge the readied characters. So never mind that. I played it properly. I feel a lot better. Let the Storm Rage on, deal 2, draw 1. Again, if he can put 4 on board here and I don't draw a song, he actually would win the game. So he didn't seem too aggro, so I'm not too worried about it. But you also just never know, truly. So John Silver comes down. We see the Gustav the Giant, which I really don't like that card. I was surprised to see it. And then a Smash come down. So we can't win our next turn. We hit our Aerial. Go ahead, play her, and we see multiple songs. I'm like, okay, we're going to go grab your swords just because I want to be able to deal damage to potentially multiple characters. 16-16, he's got 1. He can't gain 3 off of anything, so he has to deal with our board, and he just unfortunately could not. So that's kind of where we were at. Steel Song, like I said, I really think this is the best deck of the format. I don't think it's quite as played as Ruby Amethyst, and I think Ruby Amethyst kind of just doesn't really necessarily have bad matchups. I mean, it has some slightly unfavorable ones. However, this deck, like Steel Song or Sapphire Steel, Wheel Ramp, Resist, whatever you want to call it, is probably a pretty unfavorable matchup, whereas Ruby Amethyst is kind of just more neutral across the board if it's not favored. In addition to that, it's so much cheaper than a lot of these decks. So I think those factors really are why Ruby Amethyst sees so much play. However, I think this truly is the best deck of the format. Don't forget, giveaway Robin Hoods down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, take care.